thank you for joining us for this week's edition of It's Your City. I'm your host, Courtney Bloomer. Today's episode is brought to you by the Greenhouse Garden Center. Are you ready to get your yard set for spring and summer? Visit the Greenhouse Garden Center. Also, they're offering a workshop on beekeeping on April 7th. Check them out, greenhousegardencenter.com. Our guest today is Kevin Bigley. He's the Director of Event Management for Ascent Runs. Welcome, Kevin.
Thanks for having me.
Ascent Runs has been putting on some really cool and kind of growing events here in Carson City for a number of years now. How did you guys get started?
It all started almost 10 years ago. This was our 9th year for the Winter Trail Series. That started one winter just doing kind of a slow season. It's hard to get some training miles in the winter here. And so we just started off with 2 running events. And that was actually done through our other business, Ascent Physical Therapy. And we did put on 2 runs. And then the following year, that grew to 5 runs, 1 a month from November to March. And after probably about 3-4 years, the numbers really started growing. And we just wanted to kind of separate that liability from our physical therapy practice. So we started Ascent Runs. And we continued on with the Winter Trail Series. And then eventually that grew on to a friend called me that was part of the Carson Valley Trails Association, and they just completed that trail system down in Genoa. And I had just been up there and ran the course, and I was all totally jazzed, like, man, we need to put a race on. So she contacted me at the right time, and then we started the Genoa Peak Marathon, and things just kept snowballing from there, and we now have 10 events that we put on throughout the year.
All right. So the next event coming up is the Carson Canyons Half Marathon. This is on a trail that a lot of locals are familiar with, the Ashton Kings Trail. What do people need to do if they want to take part in this race?
They can go to our website, ascentruns.com. They can read all the information. Besides the half marathon, we also have what we call a half marathon. It's 6.7 miles that goes around clockwise around Sea Hill and then connects and finishes with the half marathon course. But if they go there, they can find out more information about it, and also there's a link there to register for the event.
And Carson Canyons is the first of a 3 half marathon series. What is that all about, and how did you guys get to be part of that?
Well, I've always been part of the local running club here, the Tahoe Mountain Milers, and I've always I was there from the beginning. Actually, I was vice president of the club back in the day when we had started that Prison Hill Half Marathon, and I've always been involved with the club. And when we started that Carson Canyons Half Marathon, I just kind of connected with the race directors for the Escape from Prison Hill Half Marathon and the Silver State 50-50 that also have a half marathon, and we just came together to form this, what we call the Tahoe Triple Trail Challenge. So now if you do all 3 half marathons, if you complete all 3, then you get a special award at the end.
And those are starting off, of course, with Carson Canyons, which is on April 7th, and then Prison Hill and the Silver State half marathon as well.
Correct.
That's not the end of your guys' season, though. You mentioned earlier the Genoa Peak Marathon, which is a race that you kind of would have to be mad to do. Lots of climbing in that one. But that's part of a new series that you guys have developed in the last couple of years.
Yeah, it'll be our 2nd year for what we call the Tahoe Dirt and Vert series. It's called Dirt and Vert for a reason, because there's a lot of vertical. So the first event in that series, that'll be June 9th, and that'll go from downtown Genoa. It'll run up the Sierra Canyon Trail, and it'll go to the top of Genoa Peak, and then it'll come back down to Genoa again. And then on June 30th is the second part of that series. It starts and finishes at Davis Creek Park, and it runs up over Creek Trail, and it runs up to the backside to the top of Slide Mountain, and then back down again. And then the third and final event is right here in Carson City. It starts and finishes at the Brewery Arts Center, and it's on road for a little bit, but then it goes up Ash Canyon, and it runs to the top of Snow Valley Peak and back down.
So a lot of climbing in those races. What's the total vertical gain on those? Do you know?
The vertical gain on Genoa is like 6,700 feet. Creek to peak is a little over 5,000 feet of vertical, and then the capital climb has about 5,500 feet of vertical.
So these are races for people who are pretty hardcore. For folks who maybe are not there yet, who just want to get out and run, what do you guys have? What should people do?
Well, part of our Genoa Peak Marathon, we also have an 8-mile course that doesn't have as much vertical in it. It's a loop, same thing, starts and finishes downtown Genoa. Our other two events, it's kind of hard to do a shorter event because it's just the access. There isn't really the access to get a good turnaround point. But then also in the fall, we have the Tahoe Flume Trail half marathon. So there's another half marathon distance. And then in November, we roll over right into our Winter Trail Series again, where we have 5K-ish, 10K.
5K-ish. Kevin, come on. You guys are renowned for changing up the course at the last minute and adding or subtracting mileage.
I was never really good at math, or that whole, kilometer-mile conversion. But yeah, our 5Ks will be anywhere between 3 to 4 miles in the Winter Trail Series, and the 10K plus will be anywhere from 6 to maybe 9.5 miles. But it's all dependent on trail conditions, right? So you never know what you're going to get this during the winter. This year we had a really mild winter, so our longer course we were able to stretch out a little bit and to be longer. But when actually our last winter showed up in March, so our last event on March 3rd in Washoe, we actually had about 8 inches of fresh snow. So we had to shorten it a little bit. It was really more truly right on a 10K, 6 miles. So it's really dependent on the trail conditions and weather conditions, how far we stretch it out.
How much you want to punish people that day.
Yeah.
Kevin, thanks for stopping by to talk with us. We just want to remind everybody that next race is coming up on April 7th. It's the Carson Canyons Half Marathon. AscentRuns.com to register and check out all of their races that they have all year round. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks to all of you for joining us for this week's edition of It's Your City, brought to you by Greenhouse Garden Center. Check out their schedule of upcoming classes and events happening at the Greenhouse Garden Center on their website, greenhousegardencenter.com. I'm your host, Courtney Bloomer. We'll see you next week.